You can have the perfect plan. You can have that ironclad discipline we all strive for. You can have all the knowledge in the world. But why is it that one moment of panic, one little surge of emotion, can just wipe out years of hard work? Well, today we're going to expose that hidden enemy of wealth, our own feelings. Let's dive right in.
Okay, this right here, this quote, is the feeling that inspired this entire explainer. I mean, if you've ever invested, you've probably felt this exact gut-wrenching frustration. It feels so personal, right? Like the market is specifically out to get you. And it makes you ask a really important question.
Is that what this is? Am I just that unlucky? Are some of us just cursed to buy high and sell low forever? Well, the short answer is no, absolutely not. What feels like a personal curse is actually a really predictable pattern. And it has nothing to do with luck and everything, and I mean everything, to do with how our brains are wired.
So, if it's not bad luck, what in the world is it? It's what we're going to call the emotional money problem. See, the real battlefield isn't the market. It's right between our ears. The struggle isn't about the economy. It's about our own psychology. This slide just perfectly highlights the huge gap between who we think we are as investors and who we actually are when things get real. We tell ourselves, oh yeah, I'm rational, I'm logical, I have a plan, but when the pressure is on, we're driven by this cocktail of fear, greed, and stress. And why is that? It's because money is never just about the numbers. It's tied to our deepest needs for survival, for identity, and for our status.
And when it comes to hijacking our logical minds, there are two main culprits pulling all the strings: the grip of fear and greed. Think of these two emotions as the puppet masters behind our absolute worst financial decisions. First up, let's talk about greed, which often shows up disguised as its sneaky cousin, FOMO, the fear of missing out. And wow, this description from another Reddit user is just painfully accurate, isn't it? It's that little voice whispering, "This time is different," or "Don't miss out." It's that intoxicating rush you feel when you see a price just skyrocket and you feel like you have to get in right now. But that excitement, man, it can turn to sheer terror in an instant. And the consequences of this are just devastating. When fear and greed are in the driver's seat, we end up panic selling at the exact bottom, chasing hype cycles all the way to the top, and basically lighting our long-term plan on fire for just a moment of relief. Because fear doesn't ask, hey, is this rational? No, it screams, make this feeling stop right now.
But why? Why does a falling portfolio feel so physically painful that we end up making decisions we know are wrong? Well, the answer is a powerful hidden force in our brain that we'll call the pain of loss.
That force has a name. It's called loss aversion. It's this foundational concept in behavioral economics, pioneered by the brilliant Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman and his partner Amos Tversky. What they discovered is that for our brains, the psychological sting of a loss is roughly twice as powerful as the joy we get from an equivalent gain.
This chart illustrates it perfectly. Finding $100? Yeah, that's pretty nice. But losing $100? That feels terrible. The psychological pain is literally twice as strong. And it's an evolutionary feature. Our brains are hardwired to treat threats, like losing our resources, as way more urgent than opportunities.
And this is exactly how that bias directly sabotages our wealth. It's why we cling to losing investments for way too long, because selling makes that loss feel real. And it's also why we sell our winners way too early, just to grab that quick little hit of pleasure and avoid the potential pain of seeing it all disappear.
Okay, so knowing that our brains are literally wired for these mistakes, how do we fight back? Well, the answer isn't to become a robot. It's to build what I call an emotional shield. We have to stop relying on willpower and start relying on architecture. The flawed approach, the one most of us try, is to fight our own nature. We rely on willpower, but let's be honest, in moments of high stress, emotion always wins. See, habits work quietly in the background, but emotions act loudly. The architect's approach is totally different. It acknowledges that emotions are just part of the deal and designs a system around them, relying on preset rules instead of those frantic, in-the-moment decisions.
So how do you actually build this system? Well, it really comes down to three core principles. First, use rules, not reactions. This just means deciding in advance when you'll sell, both for a loss and a gain, so you're not making panicked choices when things get crazy. Second, use systems, not decisions. This is all about automation. Set up automatic investments so the decision is already made for you. It removes that temptation to constantly tinker. And third, use time, not timing. The goal is long-term presence in the market, not trying to perfectly predict its every little move. That's a game you just can't win. And that really leads us to the fundamental truth here. The people who succeed financially, they aren't emotionless superhumans. They have simply built a better architecture, a system that shields their long-term goals from their short-term feelings.
Look, emotions aren't bad. They're human. But when our feelings are driving our financial choices, our wealth is the one that suffers. The goal isn't to eliminate emotion. The goal is simply to create a system where we act on our feelings less often. Because once emotion loses control, consistency becomes so much easier and building wealth becomes a whole lot calmer.
So, we've talked about building a system for ourselves. But what happens when the entire world is panicking? How do the wealthiest investors manage to stay calm when everything feels so uncertain? Well, we're going to explore that in our very next explainer.